Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, we're live on Facebook because that came up, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
Literally, there are cars passing outside my Harlem house. And so we're live because no one would do this in the studio to make sure that there's extraneous background noise. I am Dr. Rasan Harris. I have the good fortune of being the CEO of Citizens Committee for New York City. We are here because Citizens Committee believes in bringing New Yorkers together to improve neighborhoods. And it's almost a heavy task right now because coming together as a community has never been more important. Some people feel when you talk about your identity that you're being divisive. And one of the things that I've learned through my career is actually, if you don't bring your authentic self and you don't identify who you are and folks don't find a way to respect you for who you are, that's actually a way to kind of paint over and mask corrosion, just bad ways of practice, because people are being polite and not necessarily addressing what's real. I'm proud to say that I'm a Black man. I'm proud to say that my family comes from formerly enslaved people, and we've been able to persevere and overcome slavery, Jim Crow, unfortunately, defunded school systems and broken systems to get to the point where I am now to be the CEO of Citizens Committee. And separating out my Blackness from being the CEO of Citizens Committee is something that would do a disservice to the people from whom I come. And it would do a disservice for others who are struggling to be able to have the opportunities and the privilege that I've been able to gain through my hard work, but ultimately through all of the doors that were opened for me from folks who are Black, but folks who are white, folks that come from all different walks of life. And so at Citizens Committee, we recognize that together means recognizing all the individuals where they sit, but not having that be a problem, but having that be an asset, because this creative tension and the struggle and the conversations that happen when diverse people come together get you to solutions that couldn't have happened otherwise. So the elephant in the room is George Floyd was murdered. And unfortunately, he was murdered by a part of the system that most Americans need to depend on to feel that they're safe. We are not at odds with police officers. We're not at odds with first responders, because they have saved our lives and they've been there for us in many tough times. But it's also true that because of prejudice, because of narratives that have been created about certain individuals from where they come from, that systems have been created where there's an assumption of guilt, there's assumption of criminality, there's assumption that something's wrong, not based off of actually what's happening in the evidence, but based off of prejudices, biases, based off of the color of people's skin. Unfortunately, the coronavirus is a killer, and it kills everyone that it touches to a certain extent. Yes, people recover, but we know for a fact globally that this has been a problem, and it's something that needs to be taken seriously. Unfortunately, due to the disparities, due to the problems that existed long before COVID came about, it is an especially effective killer in Black neighborhoods and brown neighborhoods. And what this conversation is a conversation on understanding race and its implications for how certain people's outcomes will be pretty much predicted based off of their race, not on their education, not on their ability, not on their potential, but just based off of their race. And we want to be able to come together to recognize how race and our lack of understanding and our lack of our ability to see race and to use it as an asset hinders us and try to create a better future where we intentionally engage race so that we can get to great solutions, so that we can get to the American dream and the American promise that all people are created equal. And so that we all can live the American dream. Those ideals are so important, but we also recognize that ideals don't become practice without action. So we're really excited to look at our data and the studies that we've done and looking at New York City and recognizing where we can see race and figure out certain challenges, and then hopefully offer some solutions that open up a conversation about race that can be helpful for New York City and hopefully for the country. And as you know, globally, folks are protesting, so hopefully for the world. So with that, I'd like to pass it off to Citizens Committee staff.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Rasan, for that introduction. My name is Erica, and I'm on the Citizens Committee staff. I'm also here with my colleague, Katie. And we, in the past few months, have been working working on data analysis to better improve our services for the community at this time. And for those of you that don't know who Citizens Committee is, if you're joining us for the first time, Citizens Committee is a nonprofit that provides grants and resources to grassroots communities across New York City, particularly in low-income areas. Unfortunately, often synonymously, low income means communities of color. So we work with grassroots initiatives to improve the quality of life in their neighborhoods. And for those of you that don't know what a grassroots movement is, the current movement happening on the streets of Minneapolis, New York, Chicago, LA, and many more cities across the city, as well as even the world, is an example of a grassroots movement where people are taking initiative to fight for their rights on the local level to create collective action. And we're really excited that we have a special guest today, Nicole Lee, who will be speaking shortly after our presentation, but to make sure that she's able to share her story. And before we get to her, we just want to provide some context about the disproportionate impacts of the pandemic and inequalities in our nation currently.
Thank you for that, Erica. And as we mentioned before, the killing of George Floyd by police has highlighted the many racial inequalities that have already been present in people's daily lives. So what are some of these inequalities nationwide? In terms of wealth, a larger share of the Black population lives in poverty, as Erica mentioned earlier. The poverty rate for the Black community is 20.8%, while the white community is 8.1%. Also nationwide, Black people make up 13% of the population, but 23% of COVID deaths. Black communities experience significant disparities with chronic health conditions, access to healthcare, preventative screenings, as well as access to mental health. So what's happening nationwide is really mirroring what's happening in New York City. So although all of New York has been hit hard by the virus, Queens and the Bronx have been the hardest hit boroughs. Queens has the highest rate of cases of COVID-19, while the Bronx has the highest number of death rates due to COVID-19. These high death rates are mostly due to the higher prevalence of chronic diseases such as diabetes and asthma, and these are two of the main underlying conditions that cause more severe cases of the virus. In addition to certain areas hardest hit by COVID, there are certain populations of New York City that are also disproportionately impacted. COVID mortality rates are higher among the city's Black and Hispanic populations compared to any other racial and ethnic group. So really the impacts of the virus are very much highlighting the structural inequalities that have already existed in New York City.
And nationwide, that is a reality, and that's also very much related to what's happening in New York City too. So as an organization, we were able to collect over 800 survey respondents about how COVID is affecting their communities. And this map right here represents the communities not only hardest hit by COVID in orange circles, but also our survey respondents. So the gray circles represent where our survey respondents are coming from. And as you can see, almost every community hardest hit and most affected by COVID also has a survey respondent correlating to that. Additionally, we wanted to specifically look at Queens communities because Queens was one of the hardest hit communities across New York City, and we want to look at specifically their respondents. So there was 117 respondents from Queens from our survey, and this is the majority of where it covers in Queens. And as you can see, the majority of our respondents were Black or African American, and 31 of them were also white. And we want to compare their top needs. So specifically in Black and African American communities, their highest need was access to financial resources, followed by access to food, followed by access to social and emotional health care. Whereas the white community was a little different. Their needs were also access to financial resources, as well as access to social and emotional health, but also access to services for elderly. And in comparison to Black and African American communities, access to food was not as high of a need as the Black community.
So our work at Citizens Committee is to support and amplify the voices of our community groups that are doing very powerful work on the ground to both build resilient communities as well as build movements. So we're really excited to welcome Nicole Lee, who's one of the community leaders doing work in Queens that Citizens Committee has supported. So she's a grantee that's not only representing one group, but two groups. So one is Journey Through Seth's Eyes, which is a group focused on advocacy for children with special needs. And this is where parents can share resources on raising children with special needs. And she's also working with a group, WinkBeauty Parlor. And this is a Black-owned business that's fostering a greater sense of self-confidence within young women in the community. So we're really excited to welcome you, Nicole, and we're excited to hear more about the work that you're doing in your community, as well as how you're organizing your community in light of recent events.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I had to unmute myself. So yes, I had some great pictures of me and my mom. That's my mom on the back and the end, and my son. So again, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Nicole Lee. I am a small business owner in the Rockaways. I have a nonprofit called Journey Through Seth's Eyes and a beauty parlor called WinkBeauty Parlor. I just want to thank Citizens Committee for helping me start my community programs by giving me 2 generous grants for both of my organizations with the beauty industry and the nonprofit special needs resources. I was able to bring programs into our community in schools, not only in Queens, but in different states as well. So I just want to thank you guys for that and giving me that start. I kind of just want to give you a little brief description about myself, why I started, and I'll go from there. So like I said, my son is Seth Newton, and he's autistic, which is the name of our organization, Journey Through Seth's Eyes. When Seth was little, he started regular milestones. He was a little nonverbal at the age of 1 year old. I took him to the doctor. They couldn't really give me any diagnosis. They said he's a boy, he'll grow out of it. And I wasn't comfortable with that answer. He used to speak mama dada, and he just stopped speaking at all. So after that, I ran into a lady in the park. Her child had physical disabilities as well as speech impediment. She told me about an agency called Tender Care. At that time, Seth was displaying some behavior issues as well as being nonverbal. Tender Care came to the house, they evaluated him, and they began to give early intervention services, which is a number of different services like occupational therapy, ABA, speech, around the clock. At that time, I wasn't able to work. I was trying to focus on him at home. And then when I tried to get back into the work field and start my other business, again, I was unable to find proper childcare for Seth. Seth used to fall on the floor, bang his head on the floor. He used to take feces out of his diaper and wipe it on the wall. And a lot of daycares weren't equipped to deal with that behavior. So I decided to open my own daycare. Through that process, I tried to reach out to local daycare providers and asking them, oh, how do you start? And they weren't very helpful in that. So I did the research myself and I was able to start. And that daycare turned into special needs daycare. I helped plenty of people through the process, and that's how I became an advocate, a special needs advocate, not only for my son, but for other children as well. So fast forward time, being a mother, a new mother with your first child having a disability and you not knowing exactly how to raise that child is it's very difficult in itself. A lot of people get discouraged. They get embarrassed because they don't know. People look at them in the street when their child falls on the floor or screams, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. I was that parent at first. And then one of my mentors, Shawana Burke, she was my son's first teacher. I'm still friends with her to this day. She told me to embrace it. When he falls on the floor, you go on the floor with him and you say, it's okay. This is not how we behave, and redirect him. Take him into regular atmospheres. When he holds his ears, a lot of autistic kids hold their ears, then take his hands down because he has to get used to the noise. Through this process over the years, I can say that I'm proud that Seth has overcame a lot of obstacles. He is now verbal. He's now 16. He's surfing, as you can see. And through this, I just hope I can bring some awareness to the world and some hope to parents that just because you start at one place doesn't mean you're going to end at that place. We have a plan for Seth's life. He wants to go to college. He wants to be either a surgeon or a video program director. And I'm trying to put things in place. Now we're focusing on getting him to pass those regions, the resources for that. In our community, it's very hard to find resources. And that's why I try so hard to bring these resources to our families here. So that's a little background of myself and journey through Seth's eyes.
Nicole, can I ask you one quick question? Because
yeah.
I was just so touched by your story.
Thank you.
Because there are linkages for sure that Seth, he has so much talent, he has so much in him. He wants to be a surgeon. Yes. But someone who does not understand him based off of just seeing some of the challenges he had to express himself due to autism might write him off right away. And you, obviously as a mother, your love saw him and wanted to build the best out of him because you knew that there was more to him than what folks saw on the outside. It is really hard for me not to see the parallels that, you know, how the way people prejudge folks of what they see on the outside without taking a time to look deeper. And just love for you to talk a little bit more about like what it takes for someone to look past what they might see at the very beginning and not just to make a judgment, but to really stay in the work, to really build a relationship to help reach the better potential of someone by staying with them.
I think it takes courage, it takes knowledge, education to stay with a person. When you look at Seth has some social skills that he still needs to work on. He needs to work on social distancing. He's always in someone's face, too close. And sometimes people think that's weird. You know, he's a very loving kid, and they will write him off from that as well. When he first started surfing, I didn't tell his coach that he was autistic because of that. Because a lot of programs I put him in before, they would just turn him away because I told them he had a disability. So I decided not to tell people that he had a disability, and I wanted to let them see for themselves his capabilities. So, you know, that's a part of my story, and I think that helped us progress and got us in certain rooms that we would not have been in if they didn't see his ability. And as a parent, as an advocate, as a sister, as a cousin of other people with special needs, you have to look beyond the disability. You see someone with physical disabilities, that doesn't mean that they don't have a heart or they can't read. You know, you can't say that automatically turn them and write them off. So I think that you have to have an inner knowing. You have to have a strong perseverance to keep going in order to bring awareness to the world. I think that my work is not going to stop until everyone knows what autism is or what any disability is, and that don't sell us short. They always say that special education is the last of the totem pole. They look at us like a 9-digit ID number. And my son is not a 9-digit ID number. His name is Seth Newton, and he has a story to tell. And I'm here to help him tell that story. I'm here to help other parents tell their stories. Even if your child is not able to speak with with the speech therapy or OT or anything else. We're here to try to help him. Maybe you can learn sign language. That's a form of communication. How can we get that into our neighborhoods? You know, so I'm just here trying to think of different avenues that we can do to uplift our special needs community. And I think that you can't give up. That's
Just really quickly on that too. You talked about, you know, at times when he was agitated or couldn't be comfortable, that he would thrash around, and him being in his Black body and thrashing around and being out in public. Can you talk about maybe some coping mechanisms you gave for him to calm himself down? Then also maybe talk about your fears for his safety if he's in the wrong environment, if he's around someone that doesn't understand him and sees his Black maleness as a threat. Like, how does that affect you? And, you know, what would you like people to know about that?
Okay. I think some coping skills I've done with Seth, I learned along the way through teachers. Stress balls help. Weighted vests, for a lot of kids have sensory issues with that, and it helps the pressure on them. If you can put that on them under their clothes, nobody has to know it. There's on them. Some people do headphones, which I say if you do that, have a limit to it, because you still want to have your child adaptable to society, not just closed off in one way. I think that you just have to redirect. You have to talk to them. You have to treat them like anybody else. You have to get on the floor with them and provide that one-on-one eye contact and let them know that you're here with them and you understand, in order to redirect them. Even if that sitting on the floor takes 15 minutes in the supermarket. I've done it. Please believe me, I've done it. In the middle of the supermarket, my son fell down and banged his head on the floor, and I sat down there with him, redirecting him, rocking him, talking to him. People looked at me like I was crazy. Oh, you should beat him. Oh, people don't know how to raise their children. Oh, she's a single young woman. She doesn't know what she's doing. And I had to ignore that. I had to block that out, and I had to sit there with my child, and I had to tell him, it's okay. This is not going to hurt you. These people are not going to hurt you. The light is not going to hurt you. Whatever you're going through, I am here with you. So I think that understanding and that courage is one coping skill you can do. I think I have an incident when my son was about 10 years old. We took him to a family barbecue. My cousin does this Stop the Violence barbecues, and we have a big family in Brooklyn. And my son used to go in a corner under the tree and hold his ears because he didn't like the noise. And my aunts, you know, they're older. They're like, oh, leave him alone. He's a boy. And I'm like, no, he needs to be in society. One time, a kid wanted to play with him, and Seth was very aggressive. He didn't know how to redirect his strength. So they were playing ball, and I think Seth snatched the ball, and the boy fell, and they wanted to fight him. Sad to say that my son had to learn to defend himself in many situations like that, because they didn't know and understand the autism or special education. In that way, they just felt like a boy was trying to attack them. That wasn't his intention. His intention, he wanted to play, but he didn't know how to redirect his strength. You understand? So I think that, with that being said, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. Internally with myself, internally with my son, internally with the world. And I think that the only way we can do that is through advocacy, through education, through workshops, and through voice. Like, I need to know exactly what you're going through. I need to know what incidents happened to you. I need to know how we can make it better, because my story is not your story, but I can also try to make your story a success story. So I think that knowledge is a part of that as well. My phone. Yeah. So
I would love for you to continue to talk about more of your story as a Black woman business owner.
Yeah.
And you kind of slipped in that you're at a family barbecue that would stop the violence. So obviously,
yeah,
that goes against some of the narratives that, you know, Black people don't care about what's happening in their community, and some of those narratives about violence. Can you talk about the advocacy that's happened in your family, and what would you like people to know? In particular, what's gone on with George Floyd. When police officers don't understand community members, it makes them more violent and not necessarily de-escalate. And then, you know, in general, when white people don't understand people of color, it makes them more fearful. Like, what would you like people to know about the advocacy, the ownership, the investment that you and your family have put in community, and what's that mean to you?
Yeah, so I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He had carpentry businesses. He owned real estate. He owned a pool hall throughout Brooklyn. So that's like embedded in my blood. I have cousins who have nonprofit programs, who do Stop the Violence or women empowerment programs. So we all try to come together as one and see how we can change our community. She's in Brooklyn. I'm in Queens. We have family in Long Island all the way down to South Carolina. So I think that advocacy has been a part of my life since I was born. I was born on June 19th, Juneteenth. Everybody know what that is, Black liberation. So I think that me advocating not only for special education, but for minority business owners is important. During COVID, we got hit hard. A lot of service businesses were closed. We're closed for about 90 days now. We're still not open as of yet. And that impacted us financially, emotionally, economically. We applied for SBA loans. Some of these people are not getting loans. They're not getting past the loan because of their credit. They're getting denied because of their credit. So therefore, some people don't have savings accounts to pay for the 3 months that they've already been out of business, no extra income. They're trying to decide if they should pay their mortgage versus their commercial space property, food or lights. And I think that COVID in the Black community has not only hit us health-wise, it hit us financially as well, especially as business owners. We already have a lot on our plate. And then with this coming, it was like a double whammy. And on top of George Floyd. So I've been doing business in the community. We've been trying to do surveys on how we can help. In the midst of COVID, we were trying to have a letter to our elected officials, helping us come up with strategies on how to open up with strategic plans, 6 feet distancing like Walmart did and Target did, because we were completely shut down and people don't even know if they're going to be able to open up when they do decide to open up us fully. We've have so many other strategies that we were working on in the midst of COVID, and then George Floyd happened. So that whole letter representation of trying to open up our businesses kind of hit the background now. So then we still have these businesses. Some food industry people are open part-time, they're doing takeout, but then you have the service industry that's not open. You have barbershops, you have beauty salons, you have nail salons, you have other service industries, cleaning. They have other businesses, real estate, that are not open at all. So those are being hit. They don't have any funding. We've been trying to raise money for, it's over 60 businesses up and down the peninsula. Half of them are completely closed. And some of them don't even have money saved to pay their commercial property or their business loans back. And then on top of that, the SBA put on this PPP loan and saying it's favorable or it's waivable if you hire back your staff. And half of us don't even know if we can be able to hire back our staff, let alone put people in place to make money. Small businesses, how America was formed, and we provide jobs for the community. And we don't even know if we're going to be able to do that going forward, especially in Rockaway, where we're trying to build back from Sandy. We just got our beach redone and we just started opening up other businesses there. And now most of these businesses here are summer based. They say they're seasonal, and now we're in the summer and some of them still can't open up to their full capacity. Sorry. And that's worrisome. But on top of that, George Floyd, the COVID kind of took a backseat, even though it's here. We know it's here. George Floyd, Black Lives Matter movement took precedent over that. I think the nation is in uproar right now, especially looking at the video with this officer's knee on his neck, stopping circulation from this man and watching him die. I think that's a nationwide issue. Not only is it gonna oversee any kind of stress that we're going through business-wise or family-wise, we need to actually speak about the elephant in the room about racism in America, because it's been here, and I hopefully it's going to go away shortly, but not completely. I think that law enforcement has been considered the gang of New York. They forget the blood and the Crips. They call NYPD the legal game, because they have the authority to come into our neighborhoods and attack our children. And they have the authority to shoot and kill and no consequences behind them. And they also, I feel, the peninsula is very segregated. As I posted, I'm going to share this. I posted a poster of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And a lot of people in that forum told me that I shouldn't post that on this business forum. And I was a little offended by that. This is a nationwide issue. Why are you telling me I can't post this on this forum? And me, I try to put myself in a position and in different rooms where it's hard conversations. I'm always mostly the only young Black woman there. And it's okay. I'll take the backlash for my sister to come with me behind me and not take the hard backlash that I'm taking. So I still posted, I still left it there. And I started tagging other legislators to chime in, because I'm going to play my position. You understand? I'm going to stay where I am, and I'm going to make a change that way. And I was happy to see my community speak out on the segregation that we've had for years. My parents moved here in the 80s. I am 39. I'll be 39 this month. And before, up the beach, we couldn't go up the beach. It was Irish and it was Italians, and they would kick us out the restaurants. And now those certain restaurants are closed, but the people are still there. So it's very divided. And I'm just trying to bring that division. I'm trying to make it more inclusive. So by doing that with my work, I think that I'm in the right places. I have relationships with different people and different organizations, from Jewish to Italian to African American, and I plan on staying on these boards and associations and make a difference with that. I think that our nation is crying right now. I think that I'm crying right now. Every day you look at the news and you see somebody getting killed or murdered or shot without any remorse or repercussion. I think that Black people are tired of going to stores and being followed. I think that we're tired of having to teach your children how to save yourself from the police. I have to tell my son, when you go outside and you get stopped by the police, state your name, state your disability, keep your hands where they can see them, and speak calmly, because you're a tall Black man and they look at you as a threat. I shouldn't have to do that. Nobody else in this world and any other race has to do that but us. And I'm tired of that. I need to make sure that my son and my daughters are safe. And I can't be with them 24 hours a day, but I can instill certain things in them so they can know how to protect themselves. And I also can fight for laws and legislations to be changed. And I think that a part of this community, we went to a protest 2 days ago, and I was happy to see some of our local leaders follow us and demand change. And even some of our officers, whether they had to be there or not, they still were there. And we came together as a community. And I was really surprised. I didn't take my children because Rockaway has a reputation, good and bad. So I wasn't sure how it was going to come. I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing. But I still went because I felt like I had to go. I had to show my face. I had to march with my people. And I think protests throughout the nation has helped these 4 men get charged. We don't know the outcome, but at least the charges have changed. But within that protest, we had different leaders talk. I was disappointed within one leader. I'm not going to say her name, but whoever was there know exactly who I'm talking about, had the audacity to say that she is not going to stand by the 50A reform, which covers police officers when they do certain crimes. She had the audacity to say that in front of hundreds of people, because that particular area in Rockaway has low voting. So therefore she felt like she couldn't be touched. I'm speaking bluntly and honestly right now. She feels like she can't be touched because they don't vote. So my advocacy for that part of Rockaway is they don't even know who she is. Get out there, know who your local politicians are, and you need to vote. You cannot get change if you don't demand change. And there's a power in numbers. If we all come together as one and make a difference and not fighting for you, you have to fight for yourself. And how do you do that? By changing law, by changing legislation, by putting right people in position. And we need to get in position. And I think we have some people in position now, but now how do we support the people in position that we put there? We need to demand what we need, and we need to follow behind them. Not 5 or 6. We have 100 people on this peninsula. We need 100 people writing petitions. We need to change these laws and legislation so we can feel safe in our own communities. We need to build back our communities and support each other and all ethnicities, not just Black and white. I just feel like, I don't want to ramp off, but I feel like if I get shot, if Erica gets shot, what comes out of us? Red blood. we're all same. We're the same. There's no difference, just our skin color. So we're all human beings. So don't chase us down like cattle, because we're not cattle. And my mom and my dad have two different views. I like to call my mom Martin Luther King and my father Malcolm X. She was all for peace and he's all for an eye for an eye. And that's instilled in me. I'm still for peace, but I'm still going to protect my family by any means necessary. And I don't think that the world really wants to see a revolution, because we've been quiet for some years. I think that our ancestors fought harder than we fought. I think that we have more power now because we're in position, we're educated, they fought for the right to vote, fought to go to school. We are in position, but now we need to get the heart and fight back together. And I think that's important. Watching George Floyd die, it brought tears to not only I know of the world, but my eyes as well. And I'm like, something has to happen. We had Sean Bell die in 2006, getting murdered, no real prosecution for that. Other people who are not even being filmed, and the ones that are being filmed have no real repercussions. And that's the problem. We need to change the laws in this nation, and it has to happen now. I think that I was all for Cuomo. He was behind us. I'm not for this curfew. I feel like he's taken our First Amendment rights away. Well, not our constitutional rights away, but protest. We have the right to protest. And I think protest helped with this change.
Nicole, I just want to say that your words are extremely powerful. And I hope that people, a couple of things have happened, and I'm sure it's probably happened to you too. A lot of my white friends have reached out and they want to know what they can do. And I think you laid it out there in a very clear way. Number one, you have a story. You have a son that has special needs, and he's also a Black male. He might be on the floor, he might be thrashing around. You don't want people to make assumptions that he's up to something nefarious or that he's going to be hurtful and harmful and folks use excessive force with him. But if you can get down with the level on his level and see him, then you can de-escalate and you can actually see the beauty that he has to bring. You're a business owner. Supporting your businesses and making sure that people in your community have opportunity is a way to make sure that folks are providing for their families and are engaging in the American dream. If without opportunity, there is no American dream. Exactly. You talked about the right of folks to congregate and to protest and have their voices heard. Protest and coming together and organizing means something. And I think lastly is like, we have to vote. At the end of the day, almost everything I said before doesn't matter if we don't have the laws in place and the people advocating for what's right. And that's all part of a love revolution. And love is about listening. Love is about being there for each other. Love is about being willing to actually put someone in front of you before yourself without thinking that you're going to get something in return, because love returns that energy and love returns that kindness if you just have the faith and the willingness to lean into that. So thank you for sharing your story about how New Yorkers can come together and be supportive of one another, because that's what we need in this moment. And Citizens Committee is just so proud to support you. We want to make sure that folks are supporting your business. We want to make sure folks are supporting businesses like yours. We want to make sure folks are supporting Far Rockaway because summer's coming, and you're right, it's a very important season economically. But more so, we want to make sure that people see you and that they hear you and that they can get behind you, so we can all get behind each other as New York City. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I wanted Erica and Katie to have a chance to close out, but we're just really thankful that folks are joining us for these conversations because we think they're so important.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you to Nicole and Rasan and everyone who joined. We had a great discussion this week, and we really hope that at this time, as Rasan said, that you continue to support, speak out, and listen. And this is a grassroots movement, and that's what Citizens Committee is about. And we hope that you join and that you stay informed through our social media, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, to continue hearing about more of these covert conversations that are happening. Apologies for the background. And I hope that we see you in the next few weeks. And thank you, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.